party started. I'm not going to read the slide to you. Do we have any principals in here? There's no principals. Oh, that hurts. District level administrator. Okay, what else? Okay, well, I'll
who else is in the room? What, just, yeah.
State level.
State level?
State level.
Nonprofit.
Nonprofit. State.
Nonprofit.
Nonprofit. For-profit, nonprofit. I'm Sean Hendrickson. I'm the principal at St. Ignatius Middle and High School, Western Montana. That is the front of my office is right here. And those are the mountains in the background. When we get visitors, they're usually outside for 15 to 20 minutes because they're taking pictures of them and selfies and social media posting, and we have to go out and be like, hey, are we gonna get going here? So these are the objectives for this session. I noticed that there's not really a rural context at all to this conference so far. Maybe there is, but a lot of urban and giant districts that would rival the number of students in the entire state of Montana. So we're gonna go micro, right? We're going small here. Learning about the rural, discuss indicators and markers that we use in our system. Identify some research-based strategies, our approach and support, and then any question and answer that you might have. So that's anybody been to Montana? Yes. Good. All right. Well, usually everybody raises their hands. We're 45 miles north of Missoula. That's where University of Montana is. 35 miles south of Polson and Flathead Lake, which is where I grew up and went to school. And then if you don't know either of those, we're like 90 miles from Bishop. Okay. So when they talk about God's country, right, you're actually talking about Western Montana. Okay. This is just a glimpse of our crew, school. Another amazing photo. Like October is my time to get photos because it's just, you get some unbelievable colors in the mornings and in the evenings. A little bit about us. We sit in the heart of the Flathead Indian Reservation. 65% Native American, 80% free and reduced. 150 kids in the high school, 120 kids in the middle school. Right? When I said we're going small, we're going small. And I'm the only admin, so I roll all of it. 21% special ed identification, right? So you're seeing some, some markers that would point to there being some troubles along the way, maybe. We have a pretty transient population. We have kids that go from family to family, house to house throughout the reservation. Town is about 1,000 people. And the school is the largest employer, so we hold a special place. I knew Eric would like to fish, so I wanted to make sure that I had something for Eric to look at. Yes, I landed that fish myself. I was born in the town that I work in, and I'm native. I grew up on the res, born there. Spent 5 years as a teacher, 14 as a principal. Both my parents dropped out of high school. My dad got dropped out, kicked out, whatever, out of the same high school that I'm the principal at. So he runs a successful ranching and logging business. My mom went back to school when I was in high school and graduated, and she's a teacher. And so it's part of the reason, a little context as far as why I do what I do and where I'm at. So, the little indicators and markers that we look at, and we've seen this, right? I don't want to beat this down too much because this is what we've seen all day: attendance, grades, credits, all that stuff that we look at. We just do a monthly upload from the state system, pull the data out of there, track it. I'll get into what that looks like specifically at our school. Attendance, when we're talking in our system, chronically absent. So this was more in here because I had some scenario stuff, which we may or may not get to. But in 188 years, that'd be like 18 absences, right? 10% of that would put a kid at risk on that. So some of the things that we've done. Have you ever heard the phrase, if you do something for 30 days, it becomes habit? Mm-hmm. So we really hammered out, we want to build this every year into our student population, and so we did it district-wide. We provide incentives to encourage our students to make this a habit, so we have a 30-day perfect attendance incentive. First day, we blow it up on the first day of school, we get everybody on there. We go to a local pool and then rent out a movie theater and watch a movie for the day. So they get a free day, and that's those 2 days before Thanksgiving. And it's school excuse, so it doesn't count. And people have problems with that sometimes. And you're taking a day off, and I'm like, they have perfect attendance. Who cares, right? This is school. And so right now, over the since we started doing this 5 years ago, 28% of our middle school students have had perfect attendance at the Thanksgiving mark, and 34% of our high school students. We're on track to finish the year at over 94% for average daily attendance. Number of periods possible divided by number of periods attended. That's how we figure average daily attendance. So, I did a lot of reading on what that looks like and how they do this in the Detroit Public Schools. Is there anybody from Detroit? So there was an assistant superintendent there that did a bunch of work around this, and when they did initiatives, they had to brand it, and they didn't brand it just in the school, they branded it in the community, and that's what made it really thrive and succeed. So our Graduation Matters, that's a state level initiative, really pushed schools working in partnership with local businesses, communities, anybody. And so we provide scripted questions for our businesses to ask when our students come into their business, right? So an example of that would be like, so how's school going? How many days have you missed this year? Like, we have people, there's ladies in the deli that work downtown, right, that ask kids that. They have a little card out here and they roll that out. And so the message goes not just for me at the first day of school, and not just teachers and our attendance clerk, right? It's a whole community message that it's important to be at school and that they care about kids coming to school. So that's one of and the branded 8 absences or less, right? This is strategic. If every student just missed 8 days in the year, we'd have our highest attendance ever. That's 2 absences a quarter. That's manageable. We know our students, if they're actually lower than 10, they're going to be pretty successful. Anything lower than that, so we roll that out. Additional interventions, the normal stuff in a school district, right? Letters home. It's actually 5, 7, and 10. Student-led. We do student-led conferences. Is anybody familiar or use those? Yeah, so we do this 6 through 12. This was a game changer for us in an at-risk community with limited parent participation. A student-led conference requires a parent to be there to go, otherwise the kid sits there and talks to themselves, right, or doesn't do it. So the conference doesn't happen. We schedule it out. I incentivize it for teachers, right? If whoever gets 100% of their teacher or of their parents in for student-led conference, they get thrown into a basket for a personal day, and then I take their class for a full day.
That's sweet.
So there was a little union backlash, but with that. But sometimes I say go fly a kite. This one's not something to argue over. So so we include materials out there with a bar graph of attendance, and it says excellent, very good, and this is where your kid falls under. We do the automated voice phone calls, no contact, the personal phone call, that's every day. Contracts are one of our interventions that we do with students. Any out-of-district student that we get automatically goes onto an attendance contract. That's just from personal, kids moving in and out and not being there. It's a good process. Attendance incentives, those show up in our interventions sometimes. Coffee, food, gas cards, whatever. Alarms, you name it. We've done just about everything. The results of this are incentives. We've been between 93 and 94% every year it's actually more than 5 years, probably like the last 8 years on that. If you're looking for some materials to address that, this is the mecca, the granddaddy of all things intervention-wise related to attendance and truancy. It has an explanation, detailed CD, reproducible sheets and things that you can use in your travels, but it is, that's amazing. So grades and credits, we know some of we talked about this, right? Every F on a transcript, your likelihood increases of not. Failing 2 classes as a freshman, there's national data out there to support that. You have kids that fail 2 classes, you better step it up for those kids right away, right? You just don't want to go there. And then each additional missed credit being off track. Important to start kids off freshman year on a successful note, right? If you have schools in your district that don't have a freshman transition program, you need to force somebody to do that, right? If that's not happening, there's trouble already. I can tell you that unless it's just 100% affluent, and it doesn't need to be, right? If you have any kind of at-risk population and you don't have a freshman transition program, or a 6th grade or into middle school, you're missing out on some serious time to make a difference in the kid. We have we do credit recovery throughout the year, and kids we'll get to a point where they're just done, right? We know that they're not going to pass this class. We may put them into a different track and put them into some sort of online learning or combined online personal from the teacher, trying to help those kids out and be successful. Summer school, we have a pretty rigorous program. We do hands-on teaching, live, direct instruction, no computer model. We've had, the first year we did that, we were 100% successful in math and English, having an in-person teaching instead of going with a computer type model. So discipline that we track, tier 3, top tier, and I'll show you our pyramid of interventions. When a kid reaches 6 office discipline referrals, obviously that shows up in our model from the state level. The out-of-school suspensions are the real factors here. Every time you are, and if you add in other factors, right, being Native American, having an out-of-school suspension, having attendance issues, and you add this one in here, right, that's almost a guarantee that that kid won't graduate and that they'll end up in the juvenile justice or adult justice system for an extended period of time. So we tried to find a way to put everything together and sort of an incentive for kids, and I don't know if we did it, but we came up with these. So I love the Olympics, so we borrowed from the Olympics, but at the state level, you get recognition, platinum, gold, silver, and then we have our Bulldog bronze, which is our mascot, which is blue, so it's not actually bronze. But we tried to find a way to incentivize, or at least do something where kids, if they were doing good GPA, they had 3 absences or less, and no office discipline referrals. Those are the 3 markers that we really hammer on, right? How do we focus on that and make it good for our kids? So we just went to our leadership class and our student PBIS team and said, "What do you like?" And they're like, the gas card, that stuff's good. We kind of want in school, and so we put this together. Study tables are after-school program if you need extra help where kids come. Or if you're an athlete and you have a D or an F, you have to go in there. 5% increase on tests, quiz retake, homework pass, platinum dinner, which is our highest card, and the shirt. We do a theme for the year, and we have a shirt that we roll out. That picture you saw, all the staff wearing the same thing. We give those out to the kids, but these ones and these ones are extremely popular. Late arrival or early release and tardy cancellation.
I want to put one thing out that I'm not sure if everybody's seeing, but that 0.5 GPA increase, that encourages kids that even if they're below 3% or 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just keep that in the back of your mind too. That honoring those increases and acknowledging when students are making good choices and doing well.
I'd make a point. I'll let everybody else get the card and then I'll make a point. So we've had kids that were really at risk, low, and win a full 1.0, a full 1 increase, which is our platinum card, which you get kind of the moon out of it, right? Make sure that they know, that the school knows, and that their parent knows what had happened. So yeah, but these will be passed around, traded, sold, borrowed, forged, used in other ways. Not necessarily a good thing, but I appreciate kids, wanting to have those things. So some of the stuff we do for combating discipline. What do I have for time here?
So that 14 minutes.
Okay. I can get this done. 16. So MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support. Everyone familiar? Right? You're combining the old school RTI and PBIS or school-wide PBIS and looking at those two. So we have a team, and I'll get into that later, but we use the My Voice survey for climate and culture. Has anybody at the Qualia Institute does that? It's Google Docs, Google Forms makes those things really easy to not have to contract out or pay for. You just kind of change it up a little bit, but you get instant data, right, through the Google Docs. Teach to Tuesday, we teach our universal expectations. The first Tuesday, every Tuesday for like the first 10 weeks of school. And so they go through a different area. This is what we expect in the commons and foyer. This is what we expect at games and things like that. Handbook quizzes, we've kind of gone away from that, but that was something we had used where instead of you sitting up front and just the teacher rolling through the handbook and doing that, the kids did it on their own, but still were forced to think and read about some of that. So kids weren't hating your class or your teacher on day one of school. Student focus groups. If you want to get bang for your buck, right, and if you're not doing something right now, the student focus groups are probably one of my favorite pieces because we get the data and then we ask the data from the survey and then questions to students. And then when we do that, we act on it like that. Like if they say we need to do this, right, then we just do whatever we can to make sure that they see that happened, that they have a voice in the school. Changes perceptions of kids and how they feel about school. So the other side of the data, right, the personal, humanized side, active supervision, and then I have a list of non-negotiables that I go over at the beginning of the year with teacher, my expectations for them. Age of student, we know these stats, the 2 years or older, like he was saying, right, 1 back, 2, that's just trouble. Mobility, this one is where we make our money because of what they did. When we get kids in, like we'll say we have transient students that move in and out, right? And it's maybe a kid I've never seen before. We run them through the first time, the EWS, and it pulls up, and their percentage is really high, and all of a sudden mobility gets checked off, and so we go and dig, right? And go, this kid's moved like 8 times, right? They're just like they're as at risk as it gets, and so we do our best to try and help that out. Sometimes it's a family situation that you just can't deal with, but it's good when you don't know kids, and you get new kids in, and then you have an idea. And if they were in Montana, in other schools in Montana, that shows up on the state system. So that's the beauty of not having in your own district, right? Statewide, that one pays off for us. And then, so yeah, if you have that one, somebody who does your transcripts, they need to pay special attention. So we track all that. Previous dropout, we know, right? I'm sure everybody's had efforts where they've gone after kids who dropped out and tried to bring them back. You know, that's a gamble, but they're already a dropout. Counted against, it's worth a try. Although in Montana you can get dinged like 3 times. If you have a kid that comes back and drops out again in between certain dates, it ends up, yeah, I've had it. It's tough when you work so hard and then a kid drops out 3 times.
10 minutes, 9 minutes.
9 minutes, all right. Okay, so laying the groundwork for this. Got to have systems in place, provide training to deal with the early warning data, right? You can't just say here it is and roll it out and say good luck, or you can. Sometimes that is the best way. You just learn rolling. Our team process, we had a PBIS team, which also functions as a school leadership team. This became the basis for our MTSS team, okay? I went after the most caring, the go-to, your hustlers, the people that do the work. 20 days in, first 20 days of school, I send this out, I do it in paper. I send it out via a Google Doc, but I also do it in paper. Honestly, sometimes people just respond better to paper. So, but we put this in, and this is just a front and back sheet. Who's a kid that's struggling in your class? For what reason? And these are reasons that we pull up, right? Things that won't show up necessarily on some of your thing, because you don't want, right? We don't want kids slipping through the cracks. And so there may be a hygiene issue, right, which contributes to social, emotional, behavior issues, which may be an eventual mental health referral or something like that, like just those things that you gotta have the whole picture on the no. And then we ask the teachers to make recommendations to the team. So this is our kind of our list of recommendations, interventions that we can do, that we put out there, and so we try and do our best. And then obviously on the bottom, what does the student need to be successful that we currently do not have? If they have an idea, but we don't come to at that point. So this is where our small setting does probably better than others. When we have a kid and they get identified, and we go through and we look at all the teacher data, and then we look at the EWS system, and we combine and make sure we don't miss anybody, right? We get in there and we have a draft. It's literally like if you do fantasy football, right? We start here and go through, and teachers go, I work well with this kid, I want to work with him this year. And then we go through and assign them. The intro conversation for that adult is, hey, I'm going to be checking in with you for the year. We don't make it formal or anything like that. We tried to do that before, that got kind of weird. You're going to just making sure you're doing all right, checking your grades, checking in to see how you're doing. We might meet with your parent down the road. Real informal, have some mentor-mentee meetings. They set goals after they get through it, and then we check in at the quarters, midterm, 14 days, the last 2 weeks before the end of the quarter and semester, to make sure that they're on track and doing. So we meet every Monday and Tuesday during lunch. There's a small stipend available. We provide time during breaks for students to get caught up on. That's like a work on work day. So we try to do a day every quarter where they can actually make up work that they're behind on, and teachers give credit for it. We have our after-school programs. So that's the big picture tier 1 kind of processes. The 20-day referral, we also do it at 60 days because there's kids that pop up we didn't get at 20 days. Freshman Link Crew, are any of your districts do Link Crew? The Boomerang Project, Web in the middle school where everyone belongs. It's a freshman orientation program that assigns a kid with a mentor their entire freshman year, and then a student mentor. They do all the training. It's
super cool.
It's amazing. I could do a whole session on just on Link Crew. Seeds leadership training, 2 full days. Our entire school kids get this training. We're all in the gym just hammering it out. It's a pretty good time. Our student-led conferences. This is where people always go. Used to be 20%. We get 20% attendance, and now this was last year's number. We had 93% of our parents show up in the high school, and 96%, almost 97% in the middle school. Yeah, so those kind of how our stuff works. 4 minutes, okay. Trying to go through here. So pyramid of interventions. This was created specifically to our situation, right? And I just did this in the PowerPoint. But when we had all these conversations, right, behavioral and academic, right, there's one thing that we always talked about that doesn't really fall in. It's not a behavioral issue, and it's not an academic issue, but it creates at least to both of those, and that's attendance. And so the third leg of our pyramid has attendance supports. Tier 1, what we do with everybody. Tier 2, that next level. And Tier 3. And those are our hope for every year, where we want to end up in less than 5% in Tier 3. So that's, that's just gets added on to every year. But
and for those of you in the back, this is a whole list of menu option, basically, of what the interventions they have available for each of those.
Okay. So kind of what our meeting looks like. Principal, counselor, we have 4 teachers. The mentor teacher comes in. We review the at-risk referrals. We have a note taker. We have access to grades and attendance. The pyramid of interventions is always out. And we do that. I got like 8 million copies because you forget. Like you start talking about kids and you won't be thinking about things, and then you're like, oh, you know what? We should have been doing this a long time ago. We spaced it out the last time we met with this kid. And so milepost manager, that's just the system that we track it in. And then I'm in there and I facilitate the meeting, track the interventions on paper, and just try to keep old school copies. So results, what's this worked out for us? 21% of the identified at-risk students had an increase in their EWS percentage. This is our 4-year average. Okay, so that's bad. The increase is bad, right? But 79% of those identified at-risk had a decrease, which is good. We're happy with those percentages. Obviously, you want them more the other way or a little bit higher. 49% of our students make honor roll the first quarter of their freshman year. I attribute that to like I said, the freshman intervention induction program that we use along with other stuff. Our dropout rate average is below 2% over the past 4 years, right? And you can see in 2013-14, our graduation rate was 78%, and then this last year we're just under 95%. So we've had some success. It's been there's a lot of work, and if we hadn't got introduced to Eric and the state and what had gone on, because we struggle. I mean that's just a struggle. We have kids that are just like on the edge all the time, and we just gotta keep digging. But our attendance rates. This is the other side, the PBIS side of the multi-tiered systems of support, right? We had 48 discipline referrals last year. That's what I saw. 0 fights, 0 expulsions. Only 7 high school students were even out of school suspended, right? So the other side of that, when we talk about those markers, where they pop up, right, that's preventing those kids from getting there. And thus we have a K-12 system of PBIS that attributes a lot to that. 76% of our students participated in extracurricular activities over the last 4 years. 80% in co-curricular. Our band and choir programs are really popular. And 74% of our seniors go on to college. So that's the 5-year average. The highest single year during that 5 was 81%. So we've had a pretty successful little run, but you can see there's a system side to all this, and then there's the personal human side where you've got to have caring adults. You've got to do a good job of hiring the right people. You've got to have teachers and administrators and community members and those people willing to all come together for the good of it, and it helps when you're smaller. But these are things that can be used not just in a rural setting, right? A lot of these are best practice type stuff. It just takes a little ingenuity and invention and people willing to think outside of the box and go there. So I won't go to those. Any questions? No, I was rolling. Yeah.
How did you combat, or how have you combated the feelings that, for teaching staff or even for other school staff, that this is too much on top of everything else I have to do, or my focus is on the curriculum side, now you're having me handle on the behavioral side as well. So how did you make this a priority for your school and also for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like focusing on MTSS is time consuming, looking at EWS data and then assigning about school practices and then student led practices are all time consuming activities. Something else has to give, perhaps, and so how did you organize that?
Yeah, because we know this, RTI, right, MTSS, PBIS, the higher you get, the more it disappears, right? It's not popular in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Better elementary, middle, a lot of times it doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was when we give up, when the teachers give up Monday and Tuesday lunch, right? I went to those teachers and said, hey, this is what we're gonna do. I have this money set aside, you're gonna get a stipend for this. I know it's gonna be a lot. Just asking you to try and be here as much as possible. I know things come up and you might have an appointment or you might have to run on those days. We're going to have a big enough team that we can still deal with those situations, but I strategically pick the people, right? And I've had conversations. We have a teacher who's just texting me before I got up here who kind of burned out and couldn't, and so that's where she and I have to have a conversation, and she's got to be honest with me and say, I can't do it anymore. I've got too much on my plate. So it's tough, but what it comes down to is those people they care about kids and they're dedicated, and they just do what's best for kids, which is kind of our motto. Whenever we get in the dumps, every day is a great day at MHS. We do what's best for kids. That's a tough one because I've seen it go the other way too, where you just spend too much time, and sometimes you got to just revamp and start over. We're kind of in a rebuild on our PBIS side, but the at risk and like trying to help those kids. I think everybody knows that if we didn't, we'd be in trouble.
And you had told me before that this is an iterative process for you. It's not that they came up with this overnight. I mean, you guys have been doing this for how long? 4 years? 5 years?
5 years, yeah.
And so every year it changes just a little bit, so.
Yeah, it's,
We are at time, just so you know.
feel free to leave.
Thank you.
But don't, you can't walk out on an Indian. Those are the rules, those are the rules. I know you guys don't know that. So,
How do you recruit teachers who speak or really care about it?
we're rural. It's tough, right? I mean, we've had positions where we have one applicant, right? We lucked out, but then there's a lot of people from Portland who love Montana. And so we advertise in Oregon. Yeah, we advertise, we post our jobs in Oregon and Seattle to target that. But the induction process, right? She and I were talking about this before this happened because there's some guys that I follow that are really, that they're A+ game on recruiting, retention, pulling it in. If you're on Twitter, Joe Sanfilippo and Ginny Casas are amazing at how to take care of people, how to recruit, how to get people into your district when you don't have much to offer. And so I've kind of adopted what those guys do, but when we have a job, like we're gonna have a librarian retire this year. I'm guessing she'll probably put in her stuff in March. I've already contacted like 5 universities that have library tech programs. Put a little initial feeler out there for them just so they know. And then I have to, because we're so small, because we're rural and small, and the 2 districts next door to us are the 2 highest paying districts in the state of Montana. So we compete salary wise, but you saw the photos of where we live, right? Ultimately, when people roll into town, they roll in for that and want to be there for that reason. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into getting the right people in the school, for sure. And sometimes you have to settle on what shows up, and then do your best as an administrator to provide the support that they need to be successful.